Hi, I'm Johnny, and together with Peter, Hassan, Nate and Scott, we've designed the app Bingr. Now, Bingr is based around the philosophy that decision making is hard, and what's even harder is making decisions in a group. Whether that group is you and your partner or you and your mates, everyone spends time trying to decide which restaurant to eat at, what takeaway to get, or what to watch on TV. That's where Bingr comes in, the app that makes choosing a movie more fun than watching it. You create a room with your friends, say what kind of movie you're looking for, invite them in, and swipe through 20 top rated movies. At the end, you'll be told what your top pick is, and all you have to do then is switch off the app and enjoy the film. And even if the average person saves only 10 minutes per film of decision making time when they use our app, based on the average you'll watch throughout the year, that's at least 15 hours every year of time saved just from using our app. And you can use that time for whatever you want, like watching more movies. So now I'm going to hand over to Peter and Hassan to walk you through the actual app itself.
When the app first loads up, you're brought to the login page. There's no sign up necessary. To create a game, all you need to enter is your name and press the host game button. This will take us to the game setup screen. Here you're given a choice of providers and genres. You must make a selection of at least one of each before being able to proceed. Once you hit the start button, it sends off a request to the movie database, a massive API which pulls data from IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes and a number of other film APIs. We then proceed to the waiting room, where a randomly generated room code is provided. Other players can use this to join your game. Peter will now guide you through the guest path.
Anybody who has been given the room code can join in this important decision-making process. I'll first add a name, then a room code, and then hit Join Game. Behind the scenes, a number of checks are made at this stage. First, that the room code is actually valid. Second, that there isn't already a member using that username. And finally, that the game is still open to voting in, which this one is. If all goes well, I'm taken to the waiting room, where I can see the host's name and any other users who are joining. This page uses Firebase's on-snapshot event listener, so it updates connected users in real time. I'm now able to run through each of the 20 movies shortlisted by the choices the host made earlier. The movie's official poster is used as the main background for each slide. For the films we don't know much about, we can read the description and see its IMDb rating to help sway our vote. Once we've gone through all 20 movies, I get taken to this waiting page. Here we use another event listener which constantly listens to the votes. Once it's satisfied that every user in the room has voted on every film, the page automatically refreshes and reveals the top pick. That completes this demonstration. I'll now hand over to Scott to talk about the technologies we used.
When deciding on which technologies to use to build Bingr, we tried to ensure we had enough new challenges and learning opportunities, but not too many that we could not finish the app on time. For early planning, we used Balsamiq, which helps us visualise what the user would see on their respective mobile devices. And we used MindMeister, which is a simple mind mapping tool which helped us organise and structure our code. As we had experience from the course building web-based applications with React, using React Native for a mobile app seemed the obvious choice. We also used Expo, which provided a useful set of tools, including Expo Go. This gave us the ability to render the app on each of our mobile devices, whether Android or iOS, in order to ensure each line of code didn't negatively affect the user experience. For the back end, we utilised a free movie database which had some really useful endpoints. This enabled us to give our users a good selection of movies, but also filtered them to show what was available on the providers they had access to. In addition to this, we had our own database built using Firebase Firestore. This provided a good challenge and exposure to NoSQL, and also enabled us to manage real-time events with OnSnapshot. This was project critical to our app in terms of managing joining users, but also letting each device know when the voting had finished simultaneously. We also used Jest to test our utility functions. In terms of managing the build, we found Trello an invaluable tool as a Kanban board. We had daily stand-ups to discuss previous work, planned work, and any issues people had or expected to have. We tended to mob program the new tech and spikes using Zoom, and split up into smaller groups once each team member was more comfortable with a brand new skill set. Overall, we had many challenges, made many mistakes, and learned many lessons. I'll just pass you over to Nate, who will detail more about these.
I'm Nate, and I was heavily involved in the styling side of Bingr, and I really wanted to talk about that as well as some of the problems that we actually faced along the way. One of the main things that jumped out at me styling wise was the logo. It had to be simple and it had to just make sense. Now, to do that, we just took the functionality, which is based around cards and swiping through these movies, and we just added 5 cards to a simple background just to show how many developers actually worked on the app. As well as the logo design of everything, we also needed to decide on a colour scheme, not just for the logo but for the app itself. What is it going to look like and what are people going to feel when they open this app? So when we conducted some market research, we actually found that blue apps was the most common. I think it's over 34%, and what that represents to people, or what that makes them feel, is that it is secure and trustworthy. And as well as that, we went with green, and green is supposed to be easy on the eyes, and it makes you feel really welcomed to the app itself. So combining these two colours together and creating a bit of a gradient as our main colour scheme seemed like a really good idea to do. So now we've got an app more welcoming than Grandma's house, the next thing was the user interface. We want it to be really clear and really smooth and fun to use. See, we have to remember, this app is based around quick decisions and first impressions. So the easier it is to use and the better it looks, the better the app's going to be in the long run. So now, leading on to the problems that we actually face when creating this app, there is a few, as you can imagine. One of the main things that we actually did was, we didn't write the app in full React Native. This was meant to be a mobile app. What we ended up having to do was refactor the code, so instead of it being in the normal HTML tags, we had to convert all of that over. It did make us lose a little bit of time doing so, but it was really nice to see the transition from HTML over to React Native, and we really did have a good understanding of everything when that was all cleared up. So another thing we actually ran into was with modern day devices. They all seem to be different. The top of the screens may have a notch in them, meaning that on normal phones it might actually cut off some of the content. Some of the edges of the phone are rounded, and others can be right angles. Now, we didn't actually have time to implement the right safe zones to cover all devices for iOS and Android, so what we decided to do was just make an app that sort of fits on all of them, but if we really wanted to personalise it for each device, we'd definitely be keen to actually get this in later. We just know that we didn't have the time to do it this time, but it just makes us excited about wanting to do it in the future. So I think the main takeaway for us was from all of this is that planning could not be more important. We spent a third of our overall time, maybe a little bit more, actually just planning and decided what we wanted to do. And there were still little things we needed to change later on. We managed to overcome this, and there's a few things that we'd like to add in the future. And to talk about the things that we want to add in the future, I'd like to just introduce Jonathan again to just go through what the app's going to look like later on.
We think there's loads of scope to expand and improve Bingr. In fact, we only had 8 days to produce what we have produced, so there's loads of room to move into other areas. So, for example, as I mentioned in the intro, we could add restaurants, so it could query local restaurants, decide where you want to go out to eat. You could use it for takeaways, same idea, but from home. And there's a lot of functionality we'd like to add within the app. For example, swipe functionality, which I believe is a popular feature of a big dating app out there at the moment. And also we'd like to add a bit more filtering, because we noticed a lot of the same movies were coming up a lot with the 4 providers and the 4 genres which we've provided. So maybe we could add a few more providers like Now TV, etc. We could add a few more genres. Maybe we could add an option to filter through more films. So at the moment it only serves 20. Maybe you could go for 10 if you want to do a quick one, or you go for 30 if you want to get a bit more in depth. Yeah, there's lots of room to expand. We all had a great time working on this app. We pulled through a lot of difficult challenges, and well, if you want to try it, it's available on Android from our GitHub repository. So if you want to download it, we hope you have a good time.